One family that has a unique position in the hearts and imaginations of people all across the world is the British royal family. People are captivated and intrigued by their lengthy history, family tree, and the way they have managed to uphold tradition and ideals despite having numerous monarchs throughout the years. But have you ever wondered about the beginnings and history of the British royal family? Join us then as we explore the British royal family explained, history, family tree, and their path to power. The history of the royal family. The royal family's history is extensive, but it is essential to start somewhere. So, let's go. William the Conqueror was crowned king in 1066 after conquering the Norman conquest. To simplify matters, we will focus on those who successively ascended to the throne rather than many of the royal branches. Returning to William the Conqueror's reign, William II became king after his father's passing. While hunting out with his brother Henry, William II met his end. As a result, Henry I, his brother, became king. Although Henry had several kids, only 2 of them were biologically his. He declared that his daughter Matilda would succeed him when he passed away after his son died in a shipwreck. But this didn't happen. Matilda was in France at the time of Henry's passing in 1135. With the swifter diplomacy, her cousin Stephen ascended to the throne. Eventually, Empress Matilda came back and ignited a civil war that lasted for decades. Given that Stephen was still king, this civil war had no fruitful outcome. However, Matilda conquered a portion of the island without ever receiving a formal crown. As fate would have it, Stephen didn't pass the crown to any of his children, as they were either dead, disinterested, or a nun, which left Stephen's nephew Henry II with the crown in 1154. What do you think happened next? Henry II changed the system and appointed his son Henry the Young as co-king to rule alongside him, after witnessing a significant number of battles and assassinations throughout his reign. 1 is none, 2 is 1, and this introduced the rule of 2. If it is important, you need a backup. This didn't last long. Another civil war emerged. Henry the Young and his father Henry II died from dysentery and fever. Henry II's son Richard I, also known as Richard the Lionheart, took over the throne. Richard eventually passed on the throne to John and their 4 eldest sons successively, from John to Henry I, then Edward I to Edward III. The crown changed hands. The throne was taken over from Edward II by the she-wolf of France, Isabel, who was his wife. She acted as regent for her son, Edward III. Edward III didn't pass the throne to any of his sons. He outlived his son, the Black Prince, so the throne was passed on to his grandson Richard. The reign of Richard II was filled with controversy. His oppression and acts of vengeance caused the subjects to rebel. Henry IV of Lancaster, who had returned from exile, overthrew him in 1399. Before the War of the Roses, there was another Henry, Henry V, after Henry IV. 2 rival royal dynasties, who were great-great-grandchildren of Edward III, fought for the crown in a deadly civil conflict known as the War of the Roses. Henry IV to Edward IV served as kings during the 30-year-long War of the Roses. When Edward IV passed away, he bequeathed the throne to his 12-year-old son, but Richard, his best uncle, assumed the throne and promised to look after his nephew. Regrettably, Edward V disappeared mysteriously, leaving his uncle Richard III as king. Richard III was briefly king before being deposed by Henry Tudor, ending the War of the Roses. Henry VII married Elizabeth of York, uniting York and Lancaster. Upon his death, his second son Henry VIII took over the throne. Henry VIII formalised inheritance rules in his will, stating oldest boys would become kings and girls, if no boys were in line of succession. Did the rule hold? Well, let's see. Henry VIII's son, Edward VI, declared his father's rule didn't make sense and labelled his sisters dumb as well. So he decreed that his first cousin, Lady Jane Grey, would be queen when he died. How weird! Lady Jane Grey lasted for 9 days on the throne. She was beheaded by Mary, who became the first true queen. Mary didn't have any children, so she passed the crown to Elizabeth I, who was the second queen in a row. Elizabeth I was also childless, leaving James I, son of Mary, Queen of Scots, as king. If you want to be part of our family, quickly subscribe to our channel so we can keep spilling the royal tea. James's son Charles I succeeded him as monarch, but Cromwell murdered him. In place of a sovereign, Cromwell appointed himself Lord Protector. However, this so-called position was hereditary. Cromwell's rule was short-lived. His son, who inherited the throne, didn't keep the army happy. Charles's son, Charles II, took over the throne and resurrected the monarchy. Despite his many children, they were all illegitimate. Hence his brother, James II, took over the throne. James II wasn't the people's favourite, as he was a Catholic. Hence his daughter and her husband were invited to co-rule as monarchs. Mary was a Protestant who got married to a Dutch prince. William and Mary ascended to the throne and established themselves as monarchs, but they were childless. Queen Anne was therefore given the throne. Anne was also childless. Following the death of Queen Anne in 1714, Parliament agreed that George I, the son of Sophia Hanover, would succeed to the throne. All claims to the throne were made with this as their starting point. George handed over to his sons George I to George III. George III lost to the American colonies and wasn't the same after it. The crown went over to George IV, who was childless, leaving the crown to William IV, who had 10 illegitimate children. The crown was passed to Queen Victoria in 1837, the daughter of William IV's younger brother. The 63-year reign of Queen Victoria was the longest in British history at the time. Her son Edward VIII ascended to the throne following her death in 1901. And then the line of succession breaks up again. Edward VIII soiled things up by getting married to an American commoner and a divorcee 2 times over. As a monarch, he should have known better that monarchs couldn't marry divorcees. Edward's foolish actions led to his abdication of the throne and his reluctant brother George VI. Despite his reluctance to rule, George VI was hailed as a hero for his actions during World War II. He chose to remain in the United Kingdom rather than move his family to Canada. King George VI passed away at the young age of 56 from illness, leaving the kingdom to his daughter Elizabeth II in 1952. Queen Elizabeth II transformed the British monarchy, reigning for 70 years. She died at 96, leaving her son Charles as king at 73, the longest heir and oldest monarch to take to the throne. The royal family tree. Here is the current royal family tree, following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II and her husband Prince Philip, commencing with the current king, King Charles III. King Charles married Diana, Princess of Wales. Their union brought 2 children, William and Harry. After King Charles divorced Diana, he married Camilla Parker Bowles, who is now the Queen Consort. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, Andrew, Duke of York, and Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, were King Charles's 3 siblings. Princess Anne married Captain Mark Phillips, and they have 2 children together, Peter Phillips and Zara Tyndall. After divorcing Mark Phillips, she later wedded Sir Timothy Lawrence. The 3rd child of Queen Elizabeth II, Andrew, Duke of York, married Sarah, Duchess of York, and they both have 2 children, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. The youngest son of Queen Elizabeth II, Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, married Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, and they have 2 children, Lady Louise Windsor and James, Earl of Wessex. Now, let's move on to the great-grandchildren of Queen Elizabeth II. King Charles's oldest son and heir to the throne, William, Prince of Wales, married Catherine, Princess of Wales, and they have 3 children, namely Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. The second son of King Charles, Harry, Duke of Sussex, married Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and they have 2 children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Princess Anne's first son, Peter Phillips, married Autumn Phillips, and they have 2 children, Savannah and Isla. While Princess Anne's daughter Zara married Mike Tyndall, the couple have 3 children, Mia, Lena and Lucas. Prince Andrew's first daughter, Princess Beatrice, married Eduardo Mapelli Mosey. They have a daughter named Sienna Elizabeth. Princess Eugenie, the second daughter of Prince Andrew, married Jack Brooksbank. They have 2 children, August and Ernest. The British monarch and the power it possesses. Aside from the British monarch not needing a passport or a driver's licence, what other powers does the British monarchy have? Even as a ceremonial head of state to the United Kingdom, the British monarch also wields its power. With the royal prerogative powers, the monarch has reserved powers to appoint and dismiss ministers, with the Prime Minister included. The monarch's signature is also required before any law can be made official in the United Kingdom. The monarch has the right to refuse to sign this, but it rarely happens. Do you know that the British monarch is Commander-in-Chief of the entire British military? Oh yes, King Charles is. The entire British military, with every officer, soldier, sailor and pilot, swears allegiance to the Crown and nobody else. So you can see that King Charles is not called His Majesty's Armed Forces for calling's sake. The British monarch can declare both war and peace in foreign nations. However, Queen Elizabeth II didn't declare any war throughout her 70-year reign as Queen. Have you heard that the British monarch can do no wrong? One interesting power that the British monarchy has is being immune from prosecution and can do no wrong. No matter what the monarch does, he is above the law. This also extends to foreign countries, as the monarch enjoys immunity in any foreign country. That's not to say the British monarch can commit a crime anywhere in the world and suffer no consequence. No one can be arrested in the monarch's presence or within the royal palace. The British monarch is the head of the Church of England, with the title Defender of the Faith and Supreme Governor. The monarch has a say in matters affecting the Church and can appoint bishops, archbishops and deans with advice from the Prime Minister. Although the British monarch does not exercise these powers against the will of her people, however, the British monarch is a political powerhouse and influencer who works in the background. The history of the British royal family is extensive, one that has endured for many years and changed throughout time. The history of the monarch is one of change, resilience and adaptation. However, over the years, the royal family has also seen its fair share of conflicts and disagreements. But one thing is certain, the British royal family will continue to stand strong and play its role in the nation's identity. What do you think about the British royal family? Its long-standing history, family tree and powers it possesses? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Click here to watch more videos, and thanks for watching. See you in the next video.